Welcome to Vichy Step Podcasts, where we discuss entrepreneurship, industry trends, and the occasional book review. Fair play or playing to win. Meta's been on fire lately, but not in a bad way. In this episode, we're going to discuss some of the things that they have shipped in the last 5 or so weeks. This is going to include some of their robotics releases, some of their tracking releases, and we'll have an actual demo of a video that I took in Japan of a random man walking down a sidewalk, and we're going to be tracking him, which is pretty cool. And then there's also some Hollywood-ish, not publicly released yet, but Meta's MovieGen. But of course, before we dive in, I'm your host, Dalton Anderson. My background is a bit of mix of programming, data science, and insurance. Offline, you can find me building my side business, lost in a good book. You can listen to this podcast in both video and audio format on YouTube. And if audio is more your thing, you can find the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you get your podcast. And another thing I should state before we start this episode is I am in a state of delirium. I have COVID, and this is not the COVID that I want to meet again. I would like the kind COVID that treats me nicely. And this COVID is not so friendly. So I am throwing that out there that I may be mentally a little jump starting, like just jumping about in the episode, trains of thoughts not being complete, just in general. So I'm just throwing that out there. I'm in a state of delirium. I would describe myself as feeling weightless but cloudy. That's how I would feel at the moment. So just throwing that out there. So when you are listening to this episode, you are not like, what the heck? This is crazy. This doesn't make any sense. And it may or may not make sense, but this is the issues that I find myself in because I have fallen victim to not having episodes in the bank. And I've never had episodes in the bank. So I've been recording every episode every week instead of having mini episodes in the bank and potentially having a keepsake. And yeah, I couldn't have that many episodes in the bank because of the nature of the content I create, but like 2 episodes would be grand. So just wanted to let you know, if you're a little confused about the stuff I'm talking about and the way that I'm explaining it, that's probably why. Okay, so now we've got that straightened out. We are going to share a screen and we're going to talk about CoTracker 3. So CoTracker 3 is an initiative that was released as a general purpose computer vision model. It's got many applications, which are quite interesting, but I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But I would like to share my screen. And if you can't see this and you're listening, I'll talk about it. But if you are viewing it, you can see what it is. So basically, CoTracker 3 is, sorry, I accidentally hit my elbow on the mic. Hope that wasn't too disturbing. So the CoTracker 3 is this way of tracking, and it basically pixelizes or puts a point on each pixel and then identifies the object, and then it tracks and predicts where the object is or will go, which I think is pretty cool. So it will track, but if its vision gets obscured, it will still be able to pick up on it because it knows, or it would already have identified and matched the pixels of the object. So when the object comes back into frame, the object is instantly picked back up, which isn't something that other tracking methodologies can do. So it's better. It's better. And here's some examples. And it compares some others. So this biker goes up the hill, and then the vision of the video of the object, which is a kid biking, doing some biking, it gets obscured a little bit. and it messes up the other trackers and they get all out of whack. While as CoTracker, it stays right on target the whole time because it predicts where the next movement of the object will go depending on the flight. I would say like the flight path of like the pixels, and so it picks right back up where it needs to go, which I think is pretty cool. And here's one of like a rhino, almost said hippopotamus. I was like, what? It's got horns on its face. That's what I was talking about, state of delirium. Uh, it's pretty funny. Okay, so there's this skateboarder, and you can see the skateboarder is being tracked by this little point tracker, and it's kind of blocking out the other objects. It'll pick them up, but it's really focusing on the focal point, and the focal point is this guy skateboarding, or this rhino, or this person walking a baby. I don't know if that's a man or a woman. With the shorter hair, it could be a man. I don't know, because their faces are blocked out. But okay, so there's a paper on this. I'm going to review the paper, but we also have a actual demo of a video. So I am going to share this instead. So let's watch the video together. And this is a random man that I guess I took a video of. I was really trying to get a video of the city, but I thought it was a pretty good example, you guys. And it's pretty short. It's pretty short, but it's basically walking in the city of Japan. There's a man in front of me, and the vision gets obscured a couple times. So I've already loaded it up, so I'm submitting it. And what I'm doing here is I'm loading into cloud. Hold on, let me cough. All right, sorry. Yeah, as I said, I'm kind of sick. So anyways, so I'm loading it in. It's at 20% or so. So we've got another 80. And I had this loaded before. And okay, now it's done. Okay, pretty cool. So then I'm just going to hit track. You could identify which object you want to track, like by each frame. But I'm not doing that because there's only one object that it'll be able to pick it up. So it's loading in. So we saw the original video, it was that man walking. And then it's going to put these points on the map for you. And when I've tried this before, it identified what I was trying to look at. So it was fine. So I didn't really see any edits that needed to be done. It did a pretty good job, in my opinion. But hey, I'm not looking for some scientific exact, like, oh wow, like it missed the little shadow on the shoulder or something. Like I'm not zooming in and looking at like every pixel. I'm like, oh, it's 3 pixels off. Oh wow. But it's almost done. It's at 80 or so %. Oh, here it is. Wow. I kind of jinx it every time because I'm telling it it's almost done. So let me make this full screen. So when the video originally starts, see how it has all the little dots on the map? And then it picks up to the guy, and then it moves the dots off, and then now it starts tracking him. See him? See how there aren't dots everywhere, and the dots are being picked up by the object that it's tracking? The man, maybe he's working out his left arm, but he's just looks like he's carrying 3 bags in his left arm, and then no bags in his right arm. And life's all about balance, you know? But see how it's tracking again? See, it's just got all these points. And so the object left the focal point of the video twice. And then right when it flipped back, it was right there. It was right there every time. It's pretty cool. And then it flips back, boom. It's already there. It's already there. It's crazy. It's crazy. I don't know. I think it's pretty sick. All right, stop sharing. And then I'll go back to my actual video. So, okay, so it does tracking. But like, why is that useful? You know? Well, there's a couple things that it could be doing, and maybe to get some interest and some intrigue in the episode, we could start with sports. So you could use it for sports tracking for players or tracking on who is doing what and identifying them on the map and see what they're doing and then track them. So it'd be pretty cool for sports analysis. Something that people may not like, and a lot of folks wouldn't like it, is surveillance and security. So government surveillance really comes to mind, where you're tracking everybody and you're identifying them and then tracking where they go and then making sure they don't go to certain places or doing X things or whatever they're doing. Autonomous vehicles is a good shout. So with autonomous vehicles, you could use something like this to improve their tracking capabilities of tracking objects that go out of frame and then come in frame later. Like it goes out of the frame of vision of the vehicle, but then where does it go? Like where would it go? And then it picks it right back up. So I think those are particularly interesting. And then there's some for manufacturing. So manufacturing, like understanding where I wouldn't say where, like a robot arm needs to pick up an item and then pick it up and put it on something. This tracking mechanism or improved tracking mechanism would be able to help pick up these items and know where they're at, or identify items that potentially are defective and track where they're going, those kind of things. And then there's healthcare. I mean, there's probably definitely some ability to use this for like some sort of, I would think, like healthcare on the lines of rehabilitation, like tracking the movement of a body. Like, so I would think of it if you were rehabilitating your shoulder and you were doing shoulder rotations or something like that. If you had a tracker and it was tracking your arm and like where it's supposed to go and then what you're doing and seeing on like how you correct it and providing, I think it'd be pretty cool to provide, like if you were showing someone like your range of movement and then you're with a doctor and then you're tracking the movement of what you have, your mobility on the mobility, and then it will show you what you should look like with your tracking and how you would look if you had the right, not access, but maybe the right features unlocked. Like you're some kind of character where maybe you had all your rehabilitation done, or you had your surgery or whatever. Like this is what it would look like. And or correcting some movement, like, hey, you're walking this way, really you should be walking this way, or like running. Yeah, all that stuff would be pretty cool, in my opinion. But next thing that we're going to talk about here is this MovieGen. We're transitioning, and this is just going to be a list of things that Meta's shipped. They've shipped so much stuff. So we're transitioning over to MovieGen. MovieGen is pretty cool. So if you are watching, you'll see what I'm doing. And if you're on audio, then you won't. But I'll explain it as always. So Meta MovieGen is they're saying one of the most advanced foundational media models in existence. They haven't launched it yet. They're still in, sorry, I had a cough. They're still in like creator partnerships, what they call them. But basically, MovieGen allows you to not only generate movies or videos via to text, it also allows you to, this is an example. So this one is text input, a girl running across the beach and holding a kite. She's wearing jean shorts, a yellow shirt, and the sun is shining down. I mean, it's a pretty good video. Like you could see this, like the steps in the sand, and the sand is impactful. Like not impactful, but like when she's running in the sand, her feet are hitting the sand and they're leaving imprints. But the closer she gets to the water, the more damp the sand is. So not only is the sand start like sticking up when the sand gets when you're approaching the sand when it's more wet, the imprints of her foot are more pronounced, and the kite is flying in the sky, and she's running, and her hands don't look weird, and you can't really see her hands as well, but her skin complexion on her leg looks a little like odd, but that might be just because like babies' legs look weird, I don't know. But this is something that's pretty cool. Text of a woman's in the grass pumpkin patch wearing a scarf and holding a cup, and the background's filled with Republicans. But the interesting thing here is that you could not only put yourself, personalized videos of yourself or things, you can provide a face shot of your friend or of yourself, and you can make a video from it, which I think is pretty neat. So look, these are more videos from text generation. This is some sloth. This guy's got fire. And then this is pretty cool. So you could have an original video that you have. So maybe you're doing this example is like running, or maybe you're with your friends and you're at a party, like a house party. And maybe you want to change it to a nightclub or some kind of sky rooftop bar. You can do that. So in this original video, this person's running, and then it says add blue pom-poms to his hands, and now he's running with pom-poms. And then his other one says turn it into a cactus desert, and it does. And then the next one says replace the running clothes with an inflatable dinosaur costume, and it looks pretty real. Like, I don't know, it's crazy. This one, I'm sorry, I don't know if this coughs are getting picked up, but I've been having a cough. This one has this original video is some chick in like a room doing some weird hand movement stuff with her hands. I think she's doing like she's doing VR stuff. And then it changes the VR headset to binoculars. And then the next one says, remove the VR headset. I don't know how it generates the eyes and the rest of her face because all that stuff's covered up, but that's pretty incredible. And the next one says add bubbles and futuristic effect. Pretty sick. And then this one's changing the color of this guy's t-shirt and the background. Stuff's incredible. I don't know how they're doing it. It looks so real. Like I don't know what's going on here. There's some black magic stuff. Like I've seen some cool stuff before, but when I saw this, I was really wowed. Really wowed. I was like, wow, that's pretty neat. And this could be, what is the practical application here? Well, maybe you don't like your shirt that you're wearing in that video. Change the shirt or change the background. Like this is original video warming up for a run, it looks like. And this man has this changed his shirt and the background, changed the background to an outdoor stadium. And he's warming up with a blue shirt. I guess they didn't tell us to change the shirt, change the background to an outdoor stadium. I guess it changed the shirt on its own. Weird. That's a bit odd. I don't know why I did that, but I don't know. So then the next thing that's pretty cool is you can make personalized videos. So you can take a selfie of yourself, and then it'll make a video of you doing something. Like this guy took a video of himself, and then he became a scientist. This woman who just had a selfie with, I don't know, I would say bad lighting. It's overexposed. Has herself in a painting video. She's painting, and the hands look great. Lots of dexterity there. Oh man, this smile is odd. But it looks a little exaggerated, but I think it's the angle that the guy, like his smile to what he gave is pretty close. In certain spot, like in the beginning part of the video, it's like it's really extended, but I think it's the angle of which like he's like set his photo. But yeah, this is pretty cool stuff. Pretty cool stuff. And then you can add a sound, like create effects and soundtracks for your videos. So not only can you create a video from text, you could also personalize the video and put objects or things. You can edit the video with text, completely change the background or objects in the video. You can personalize it, putting in yourself. And then you can add sound, then you can create soundtracks and effects for your video. Crazy. This isn't released yet. They are only allowing creator partners to use these videos or this MovieGen thing, which is a bummer because I really wanted to use it, but whatever. It is what it is. So that's MovieGen. So MovieGen's pretty cool. I don't know. Wow, I said that's probably the first time in a long time. Anyways, so there's this other object that they released called the Meta Spirit LM, which is originally, I thought, and was explained to me as like a Google Notebook LM competitor, but open source. But really, it's a different approach where it's less about standardizing information and more about just having like an assistant nearby that you could process. It's multimodal. It could process text, audio, and just having an assistant nearby, like on your computer locally, which is, a different approach than Notebook LM by Google, because that's clearly a summarization and educational tool, whereas Meta Spirit LM is, it's just overall a different approach. Like it's like having something on your computer that, can process text and audio. Notebook LM can't do that. And then it can respond back in audio. The voice is a little odd and very, I would say, somebody said in the comments in the video that Meta posted is like, this is what my sleep paralysis demon would sound like. So it's not the best, but I think overall it's something that Meta shipped that people can use, and it is interesting in its own regard, and it is open sourced. This one, it doesn't allow commercial use, but that's good enough. I mean, open sourcing the community and letting people play with it and figure out the best way to do stuff, you get a lot more feedback when you do so. Okay, so Meta's robotics advancements. I think before I talk about stuff relating to this, I think the best thing to do is to share my screen and watch a 2-minute video. This is it right here. Cool. So I've already watched it because I wanted to test the video, and thank goodness I did, because originally it was coming in so loud. Like, I wanted to make sure when I played this video that the audio was coming through, and pretty sure it did, but I couldn't hurt to test. So when I was doing it, I was like listening to after the video recording test, and oh my, it was so loud. So I turned it down and made it a little bit less loud. So hopefully that is not too loud. But let's watch the video, and it will give us a pretty good understanding of what this is, and then I could talk about it. Maybe make it full screen. Yeah. Insane, right? I was thinking the same thing. Crazy. One thing I think is more, I would say, I think it's hard to understand that these independent teams launched all these things in the last 5 weeks or so. Crazy that they, maybe not 8 weeks, say 8 weeks. They've launched all this stuff so soon within each other, and they're all, I would say, incredible projects. And they're all coming with a 90-page research paper, which I'll need to read them, and I'll talk about them in the episode. So the next couple of weeks, while I'm working on some special episodes with guests to get that all squared away, I'll be talking about Meta's research papers, and I'll probably start with the robotics one because digitizing touch seems very interesting. And overall, super cool. Super cool. Stop sharing. Like, I don't know. Like, how are they shipping this much stuff is what I'm having a hard time understanding. Like, this whole like meta robotics advancement and the just different integrations with the digitizing the touch with the sensors and having the 460,000 images and then being 90, like having a 95% improvement to, or did they say 95 or 90%? I think that they said, we literally just watched it together. Let's see. I think it's 90. 90. That's sad. We literally just watched it. 95. All right. So yeah, I was right. I was doubting myself. Sometimes I doubt myself with these numbers because it's such a high number to state out, but we found that Sparsh outperforms task and sensor specific models by an average of over 95% by this benchmark. So not only are they shipping all this stuff, they are absolutely just dominating in the things that they're releasing. Like, they're dominating with the CoTracker 3. They're dominating with Sparsh and these other things. And it's just not even close. I mean, 95% better than the other models. Like, and then the MovieGen thing, looks just I'm flabbergasted with all the stuff that they're launching. I'm really excited to read these papers and see what knowledge I can glean and share with the audience and everyone that listens to the episodes every week. Appreciate you, and I hope that you find this stuff interesting because it improves me quite a bit and my understanding of technology and hopefully a mix of insurance and finance, and hopefully in the future all these things intertwine and become one and allow me to elevate myself and others. But anyways, so that was Meta Sparsh, and Sparsh means touch in a language called like Sanskrit, which is a language back in the Bronze Age. And I don't think many people speak it today, but that's what that Sparsh means. It means touch, but it sounds pretty cool though. It's like, wow, that's all nifty, but really it literally means touch. So maybe that's something to pull out of the product rule book or roadmap, is when next time I come out with a product or XYZ, you just pull up your foreign language index and just, okay, what is this? All right, perfect. Okay. That's what that means. All right, let's call it that. It's easy to say, it's easy to spell. Let's go. Let's do it. And I didn't mention it earlier, but the combination of this Sparsh and the stuff that they're doing with that, the Digit 360, the Digiplex, all these things, and creating not only the technology, open sourcing to the community, but then also creating a way for it to be easily integrated with having a platform for these sensor connections, and also partnering with these other companies to help build out these little digits that they're going to be used for the fingers and the sensors and all that stuff. I think that it's going to change the game. Like 5 years from now, it might be the standard. Like, I don't know how else someone else would compete with, unless they came out with a superior product. But is it open source? Like, when you open source a superior product than everyone else, I don't know how someone can get away with not open sourcing. Like, that's like saying, okay, you can buy my hot dogs, right? And you could also make them yourself. Here's the recipe if you like it a lot. And then there's someone else selling hot dogs, but not only do you have to buy the hot dog, you also have some kind of membership fee. Like, to get your hot dog, you've got to have Sam's hot dog membership, and then you got to buy the hot dog. When this open source hot dog is so much better, and you can make it yourself at home, and you have all the knowledge of what goes in it, like, why would you use the other one? So it really burns the alternative. The alternative is just done. And that's really the goal of Mark Zuckerberg and Meta. He is really pushing for these generational technologies that are going to transform this, not only the industry, but society in general. The demand is open source. He wants it to be open source. He doesn't want to have a closed system model like phones or computers. He wants it to be open source, and he wants open source to win. So he's like, yeah, I'm fine with just open sourcing everything. Like, who cares if it makes any money? We don't need the money. We don't need the product. We need to invest in these things to become advanced and to protect ourselves against, sophisticated nations attacking our systems. So we're going to have a really advanced technology. And in this incident, I'm talking about LLMs and AI. And then this other stuff with advanced robotics and the CoTracker, the original adaptation of these things possibly wasn't from VR, but a lot of these applications are related to VR. And it was something that Mark talked about before with when he was getting a lot of crap for pushing into VR and really leaning into the metaverse and all this stuff, was the technologies that we will create from investing and optimizing this technology are going to be incredible. And if you guys can't see that, then I can't help you. But otherwise, we're going to be moving forward with this. And you could just see some of these things that a lot of these research projects fold over to VR or fold over to the other things that they're doing. Like the CoTracker 3, I didn't talk about it. I think I forgot to, but gaming, like you're gaming, like for VR gaming, tracking your hands, maybe other players in the room, other things like that. Huge, huge. And for this thing right here, the Sparsh and the Digiplex and the Touch 360 or Meta Digit 360, those items would help in VR. Like you could scan in textures and then have these sensors. You could scan in the textures in VR and then somehow simulate these textures back to the human with sensors. I don't know. I mean, that would you get pretty wild pretty quick with all that stuff, like scanning in textures and then allowing people to feel the textures in VR. Before you know it, the Skynet's here. I don't know. Pretty cool. And I'm always excited when people are shipping stuff and it's open source. I really like Meta's approach. I think it's very admirable. And overall, their stuff is great. Like, and they ship it with a paper. Like everything they're shipping comes with a paper. And I think that it's such a different approach than Google or OpenAI. Google's more open source, but like OpenAI isn't really open, right? Like they're not very open. So the only two big open source folks is X with XAI, which is AI on, or I guess Gronk is what their product is called, but the company's called XAI. And it's worth like 50 billion recently. It was evaluated or something like that. And then there is Meta. OpenAI doesn't open source. Anthropic isn't open source. Microsoft's AI isn't open source. So there's very few folks that are open sourcing. But Meta's stuff is really good. Not only is there AI, but there are other research, and it comes with a paper. And they disclose so much stuff in the papers that I've read from them. They're very interesting. I really don't know if they keep shipping at this rate. I'm not sure that there is a closed source available. I think everything just eventually becomes open source, which would be great for everyone. I mean, it's a negative for closed source, but if open source and free is maybe 90% there, like, why would you use something else if you get 90% of your use cases for free, and maybe paying $20 or $40 a month gives you the other 10%? Like, those people, the majority of the population, are not going to search for that extra 10. They're going to be fine with a 90, which is fine. So let me know what you thought about this episode. Maybe you felt my state of delirium, maybe not so much. Felt like sometimes I was all over the place, but that's just the nature of having an eccentric host, I guess. What do you think about some of the things I talked about? I thought the CoTracker 3 demo was pretty cool. Meta's MovieGen was something else entirely, and this sparse robotics and all of those things that come with it are incredible and be really cool for robotic surgeries or manufacturing, or what is it called? I'm blanking on it. Prosthetics. I was like, what? Yeah, prosthetics. Prosthetics would be really cool for prosthetics, like maybe advanced hand sensing for prosthetics and be able to grip things with, I don't know, it's just going to be cool. Everything's going to be really cool in like 5 years. Like, the future is bright. It's brighter than people believe. And I'd always lean into the favorable outcome and being positive and looking for the best in people and not searching for the bad. There's a lot of things that happen to you, but a lot of times those things aren't intentional from others. So when something happens and you're like, oh, that person's not so nice or blah, 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 they probably didn't intentionally do that. Just throwing it out there. Just lean into the brightness of the world and feel the delirium. But in the next coming weeks, I've been trying to gather some guests on the show, and I had some guests lined up, and then I was out of country for 5 or so weeks, and that kind of fell off, and they're a bit annoyed with me, so I try to get them back on the show. And then I have a special series, an insurance series. I want to have some insurance vendors on the show. When I was at ITC, I met some founders that would be interested in coming on the show for some of the problems that they're solving. And with that comes the responsibility of explaining what really is going on in insurance, what's happening in these catastrophic areas, and why is it so difficult to get insurance. And then in general, explaining on like what is insurance, like ins and outs, like how is insurance created, what is reinsurance, how do you price insurance, all those things and more. And then I want to have some vendors on the show talking about some of the problems that they're solving for either governmental agencies, homeowners, or companies. But I want to do those things and do it right. So you have the proper background. You're like, wow, this is pretty incredible. Without that, it's going to fall flat. So bear with me. I'm trying my best. COVID doesn't help. So, but as always, I appreciate you. And I hope that you tune in next week. And I hope I'm around next week as well. I'm sure I will be. I'm just being dramatic. But of course, wherever you are in this world, have a good afternoon, good evening, good morning, and overall, have a great day. Goodbye.